Welcome everybody to That's Weird Stuff, our show where I share stories of the bizarre and strange, and these guys have to decide aliens or not. Uh, this week we are ending our Russian Mystery Month with this story. So our last Russian mystery takes us to the Ural Mountains and the mysterious death of a group of expeditionaires. The hikers came from the Soviet Ural Polytechnic Institute and were led by Igor Dyatlov, a,
Dyatlov.
a radio engineering student. All but one of the expedition were in their 20s, and all were grade 2 experienced hikers and would be certified grade 3 hikers after the expedition. The goal of the expedition was to reach Ortitin, a mountain in the far north, and it would be undertaken during one of the most treacherous times of the year. The expedition began in a town of Ividal, uh, which the hikers had taken a train from their university to get to. Next, the group traveled by truck to Vizhaya. Well, I don't know these words, but where they stopped for the night and prepared for the hike the next day. They began their hike on January 27th, and by the second day, a member of the expedition with a history of health difficulties was forced to turn back. On the 31st of January, the group made a camp in a wooded area where they stashed food and supplies for their return trip. On the 1st of February, the group started up the mountain pass that would one day bear the expedition's name, hoping to cross it by the next evening. However, the group was soon met with snowstorms and low visibility and lost their way west of their intended destination. Unwilling to turn back, the group made camp near the peak of Kolat Sayaki, a mountain which means dead mountain or silent peak. This would be the group's final campsite. After 20 days without word from the expedition, rescue parties were sent out, first by the university and then by the military. On February 26th, the group's tent was found on the Kolat Shayake. The tent had been cut open from the inside, and the group's belongings have been left inside. Tracks of the group were found leading down the pass to a wooden area. These tracks were made by people in bare feet and socks. Near the edge of the wooded area, the remains of a small campfire was found. It was here that the first bodies were found, two of the hikers who were dressed only in their underwear. There was evidence that someone had climbed the tree, perhaps to look for fellow group members or perhaps out of fear. 3 bodies were found between the camp and the forest. After 2 months, the final 4 hikers were found in a ravine deeper into the forest and about 250 meters from the campfire. They were covered in 4 meters of snow and found to be dressed more dressed than the others, suggesting that they had used clothes from those who had perished higher up on the mountain. One of the hikers was wearing burned and torn trousers of another of the group and had used a jacket to bandage her foot. The investigation found that 6 of the 9 hikers died by hypothermia, and the remaining 3 by fatal injuries. 1 to major skull damage, and the other 2 from major chest damage. In the examiner's opinion, these wounds were caused by severe force, such as a car accident or high level pressure. The 4 bodies found in the ravine were said to have soft tissue damage. One was missing her tongue, eyes, lips, and face, and another eyeballs and another eyebrows. So there was no evidence of a struggle or evidence that there were wounds that could be attributed to a human. Radiation was found on one of the victims' clothing, and no information was given about the victim's internal organs. Another group of hikers reported seeing strange orange spheres in the northern sky the night of the incident, and in later report, witnesses that included military and meteorology services reported seeing orange spheres in months in the months of February and March of the same year. A 12-year-old boy who attended the funeral for the hikers reported their skin being tanned to a dark brown. Some theories about the cause of the incident include the expert. Okay, so the experts tend to think it was an avalanche. Other theories: a Yeti attack, bad weather combined with inexperience, catabolic wind, infrared sound created by a vortex that caused panic, military testing, and an orgy gone wrong. A new investigation was started in 2019, and in 2021, scientists had proposed that the cause of the incident was a slab avalanche. However, in 2019, investigation would only consider that. Oh, the 2019 investigation would only consider an avalanche or hurricane could be the cause, so they didn't even consider anything else. Confirmation bias, and there is evidence that contradict an avalanche as the cause, including lack of evidence of an avalanche near the incident and the over 100 expeditions to the area since the incident. Conditions of an avalanche have never been encountered. Lack of snow on the ridges of the peak. The tent would have been damaged in both directions. The experienced members of the team would have known not to camp in the path of an avalanche. And then the footprints found show no evidence of panic in the from the tent where they were leaving. So, guys, that was a long one, but I hope you found it interesting because this is one of my favorite mysteries. So, what do you guys think? Jared, since you were gone last time, we'll go to you first.
Wow, you're going to reward him for being absent. Wow. Brother bias. I call bias.
He just got abducted by aliens, so maybe he can shed light on what happened.
I've heard this story a few times. Snow chupacabras, guys. Mountain chupacabras. That's what it is.
Chupacabras.
I'm going with that.
Russian Mexicans. Never see them coming.
But seriously, I have no idea. Everything like contradicts itself. They always want to say avalanches, but it doesn't.
It just doesn't.
Like you guys said, there's no like evidence of that. I like the one that's like they know not to camp under where an avalanche can happen. It's like I'm sure no one plans for that, but like, but I don't know. Like seriously, I don't have
no guesses at all.
Especially like orange orbs in the air. And then there's like one person radiated for some reason. Mm-hmm. So aliens, honestly.
Like... All right, Thomas, what did you think about this mystery?
Go ahead and let Michael go. I have a lot to say about this one.
Okay, Michael.
It was him.
Oh no,
Jared, Mexican chupacabra.
It's just
here.
It's a live emission of guilt.
He's like, I had to come clean.
It's about time. My first one was the Yeti, abominable snowman things. You're in the snow, you're in the mountains, and then also it was. I was thinking like maybe a Yeti's teaching their kids to count because it went from 2 bodies to 3 bodies to 4 bodies. They're like 1, 2 first, moving up. But then the face cutting off threw me. You get the mouths.
They're catching them as they go off 1.
Yeah. But then you get the weird like Frankenstein thing where they're trying to like take a bunch of human body parts and piece things together or something like that. So
kids like to wear masks, so they're like heroes. So,
but I don't know if it was like, but maybe it's like aliens trying to be like like skin face their other people's body parts on or something like that.
What about the orbs?
Maybe this is how Frankenstein was made. The dude's just someone's trying to make a Frankenstein monster. Getting little pieces out of people.
That'd be cool. I like that.
Interesting.
The weirdest part to me, apart from all the creepy weird stuff, face cutting off was the force you said of how hard like a car or whatever wrecked out.
Yeah, either it's the pressure of like being a car accident or the pressure of being underwater.
That's pretty crazy. But yeah, I don't know. This is a wacky one. But Thomas was nodding a lot, so he seems to have a an in-depth view on this. Let's go to Thomas for our after-action report.
For our admission of guilt.
Yeah. So, like Joseph said, this is one of my favorite mysteries. I've done a lot of research about this one, and I actually finished a book about a year and a half ago. It's called Dead Mountain by Donnie Eklar. Right there. Do you want to see it? It's a really good book. It's kind of interesting because basically the Soviet government for the longest time just didn't want to release documents of any kind. Like it is, even if there wasn't anything suspicious or anything like wrong, like admission of guilt, like anything, they just didn't want to release anything. So the Dyatlov Pass has become more and more and more mysterious because for like, I think it was like 50 years, nobody knew what the Soviet investigation was. And so it's funny is that this book actually, this guy gets an inspiration to go to Russia. He's from like Arizona, and he's like, I want to go to Russia in the middle of winter to do this.
Tired of the heat.
Yeah. And so it goes into like he interviewed everybody that came in contact with him up until like the last point of contact. He even interviewed one of the guys that was part of the expedition, but had to turn around because I think he had not tuberculosis. He had some kind of inflammatory disease. So he had to turn back at the last point. And it's kind of interesting because like the whole radiation thing, well, nobody can explain that, but they honestly think it was something to do with how they, what do you call it? Preserve the bodies, because the bodies themselves were like in a weird sort. They look orange, which is kind of odd, but they're also out there for a very long time. And the faces being like eaten off was actually explained by what do you call it? Not rodents, but animals. They actually found animals. Yeah, scavengers. They actually found remains in animals. But
was it like chunks of the face torn off, or was it?
Yeah,
like
it wasn't the
cleaned
whole
out?
face.
Oh, okay,
that
that
was the
makes
whole
sense.
face. Like
Okay.
like all their eyes were gone because that's how scavengers go for
Oh,
first.
that makes a lot of sense. I thought it was like a perfect like circle or like.
But what Joseph mentioned is the prevailing theory is that I think it's called barometric wind. I think is what it's called.
Mm.
So what this does, it vibrates at a frequency in your head that it causes you to basically have a severe panic attack, and you just freak out. Like there's no explanation for it, but the right amount of circumstances and how the wind is angled, it basically vibrates your brain. This is super layman, but it basically causes you to panic and just lose all reasoning and go just completely nuts. And so these people literally have a panic attack in their tent and just try to like flee is what they try to do. There isn't a lot of evidence. What is it?
It's catabatic wind.
Catabatic wind. Sorry. And so like there's this. The biggest part though about the whole mystery about this is that there was in the report for the Soviet Union, an unknown force caused this damage, and they wouldn't give any specifics. It's just unknown force, and so that everybody's like, it's aliens. It's got to be aliens. It's like some type of like they came across like some Soviet like underground facility or something like that, or the Manzi like try to kill them, which is like the tribe that's up in the northern mountains, the Ural Mountains. And what's funny is that the Manzi people are like, no, we're trying to help, like we're actively helping, don't blame us.
Yeah.
But the biggest one is that wind theory, is that it causes you to basically just lose your mind for no reason. And they did explain it was basically a chest being concaved in, but the way that they found this guy was that he fell off into a ravine and landed chest first. So like, well, yeah, that'll cause it. But it's weird because what makes it like mysterious is that the Soviet Union basically denied it ever existed for like the longest time, but everybody knew about it. And it's crazy. But I do recommend the book. It's called Dead Mountain. Really good book. It's actually read by the guy. But yeah, it's a.
Can you imagine that? Hey, do you want to go investigate Mountain of Death? No, I don't. I'm scared.
Yeah.
Too bad.
Well, and that's the thing is that he just had a kid. He just got engaged. He went up to his fiance. He's like, "So I'm going to go to Russia to a place called Dead Mountain." She's like, "What?" Um,
And
but
for
no,
the
this
record,
is
I don't grab Luna because I'm scared or comfort from these
Sure.
stories.
Yeah, you
It's,
Sure.
do.
she's
Sure.
just so
You do.
cute.
sure.
Cute.
So my opinion, I definitely go with the military testing something out there, even though there was no human tracks are found. But it does seem like a cover up. The avalanche thing, like, there's been a ton of holes poked into the avalanche thing. As someone who's read a lot about avalanches and stuff like that, you don't have time to cut yourself out of a tent when an avalanche is coming. It's just kind of like. Also, when an avalanche hits you, your body like gets stripped apart. Like limbs are like chunks. Yeah,
That
chunks
sounds
fly
yucky.
out and stuff. Yep. Go ahead, Thomas.
What? Why do you research avalanches, Joseph? Do you hate the cold?
I know, but I read a lot about mountains.
Know about your
for some
enemy,
reason.
Thomas.
True.
No.
So the radiation, I don't think can be explained. That it's got to be something out there. The orange spheres, I think, is credible. I don't think it's aliens this time, though. I think it's some kind of like missiles being, some kind of new missile or something that Russians had back then. They do explain, and I believe this one, that they took off all their clothes because, like, when you're suffering from hypothermia, sometimes there's an actual reaction where you want to just take off your clothes. That is something that's been observed before. So I think it's military testing, and plus a mystery we could do down the line. If you guys remember that Cuban mystery that was going around where people were like getting sick from a certain sound. Do you guys remember that in the news?
No.
Yeah, so they thought like they thought it was America actually testing a weapon on like
What was that, like
citizens.
2 years ago, 4 years ago?
Yeah, I think it happened during COVID. So I think there's some precedent for weapons being tested. I think this is just another one of them. The Soviets didn't really seem to care about their citizens that much because, hey, you're helping the motherland if you're doing your part, right? So yeah, that's my opinion. Any last words on this one?
Still think it's a school of Yeti, but it's fine.
School of Yeti. Okay.
I see nothing wrong with this.
Curious Yeti children.
What happens if I?
So that's going to close out our Russian Mystery Month. I hope you guys liked it. And we'll get some new mysteries coming up. So that's going to do it for us this time. Like, subscribe, and notify yourself for even more good stuff. And we will see you next time.